One D&D to rule them all, and in the virtual tabletop bind them. Hello and welcome to every edition of the Tabletop RPG Talk Show. I'm Jon.
I'm Jesse.
In today's Loot the Body, we will be reviewing the brand new Spelljammer Adventures in Space box set.
In our random encounter today, we're going to be talking about one D&D and sort of everything that comes with that.
There's a lot that comes with that.
There's a lot.
Maybe, right? A lot of guessing, a lot of speculation, but a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
And for our morale check, we will have tabletop news of the day. But first, Jesse, what's new?
Well, the newest Magic the Gathering set, Dominaria United, came out.
Yes, it did.
It's sort of a callback to Magic's origin, the original plane, the original lore. Mm-hmm. It has to do with the Brothers' War, which is sort of like a 20-odd year storyline, which is really awesome. It's sort of trying to wrap that stuff up. It brought me back to Magic. For a while, I've been kind of off Magic just because of COVID and all that stuff. There's like really nowhere to play yet.
And that crappy double feature.
And yeah, there's been some less than stellar releases. Yeah. But I like the lore that comes with it. They've got a lot of awesome characters. I'm still holding out hope for a D&D Dominaria book, but we'll see. Well,
and remember, a viewer sent us a PDF that there was in like 2016 or something like that. There was a Dominaria, digital only release.
Yes.
Which means that they've already laid the groundwork for a physical release. So that would make a lot of sense maybe for the big anniversary coming up.
That could be good. Yeah. During the anniversary, sort of tie the two together. Yeah. What's new with you, Jon?
Well, I actually am back into playing Magic too. This would be weird because we're both talking about Magic, but they've released a Dominaria Jumpstart set. And Jumpstart came out in the middle of the pandemic, and it was a new format of play that was basically like the card game Smash Up. You take two factions or take two themes and you smash them together, and you got a deck ready to play. I love that because it's perfect for casual play, which at this point is where I am with Magic. I don't have the budget or time to become a serious Magic player, nor honestly the interest.
Yeah.
So the casual play really appeals to me, and I think Jumpstart is terrific. It got kind of lampooned a little bit with the pandemic, and it had a little bit of a rocky start. People weren't playing in person, and clearly this was a format that needed to be in person, needed to be physical, but they're giving it a second life. And so Dominaria's got a Jumpstart set attached to it. The Brothers' War, the follow-up one, is going to have Jumpstart attached to it, and they're doing a Jumpstart 2022. So as long as Magic is doing Jumpstart, they're going to have me.
Nice.
So, great.
It's time for a morale check. Our morale checks are where we take a look at news of the week and things going on in our industry. Some updated news from the Marvel Multiverse RPG. So, a few episodes ago, maybe a few more than a few, we talked about our playtest experience with the Marvel Multiverse RPG, which is the new Marvel RPG coming out next year.
Yep.
Super awesome system. It was a 3D6 system. Their 616 dice system is what they call it. Super fun, very crunchy, surprisingly easy to get into though, because if you're playing as a superhero, who doesn't want to do that?
Yeah.
So they've updated some online rules based on feedback from the community and the playtest stuff. There's a 1.2 PDF available on their website, as well as some info about which books we're getting next year on the release.
Oh, cool.
So a core book is going to release in the summer of 2023. And then a little bit after that, there's going to be an adventure book that's called The Cataclysm of Kang.
Ooh.
So I think this is really going to tie into what they've got going on with the cinematic universe.
Okay.
They're definitely setting up some Kang-related multiverse stuff. Like there's going to be a Kang movie. They've sort of introduced Kang a little bit in some of the shows. So that'll hopefully bring in a lot of new people to tabletops in general.
Yeah, it's going to be a blockbuster release next summer. I just hope that they do continue to move the game forward before the release. It was very clearly a playtest version. Had some room for improvement, especially when it came to our experience. It was at least the adventure that came with it didn't have a lot of role play in it.
Yeah. And very combat heavy.
Very combat heavy. So, which that's fine, but it's not everything that you'd want out of a superhero game.
Correct.
So hopefully they're making some improvements.
Yeah.
So in other news, Necromancer Games has a double module release.
Double feature
on Indiegogo right now. And the thing that's interesting about it to me is that they're not only releasing it for 5th edition and releasing it for OSR rules, but it's also getting a third release or a third version for Castles and Crusades.
Nice.
And so it's the first time in a long time that I've seen CNC get some third-party support or get some support outside of Troll Lord Games. So that makes me more likely to support this particular release. So it's a Halloween double feature, 2 modules, Fungus God from Outer Space, terrific title, right? And the other module is Heresy of Rot.
Okay.
So both of them are a combo job that you can back on Indiegogo right
Very
now.
Spooky.
Yeah, here at the end of September, we're about to hit October, and these Halloween double feature modules from Necromancer Games. Check out the Castles and Crusades version.
We have some news from Free League, originally published in 1982. Ooh. The original Scandinavian tabletop RPG of Dragonbane.
Whoa.
Is getting a re-release, also in English this time.
Okay.
Which seems awesome. It's been 40 years. It's reimagined, sort of re-released. Free League has, certainly has the funds to do that. They've been kicking it on Kickstarter.
Sure. This might be a little vanity project, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. It's just like, oh yeah, we can do fantasy too. Like, it's really good.
Well, and I remember when I was 3 and it first came out, and I was in Scandinavia.
I can't read this.
It was, I couldn't read one bit of it, but it was really great. No, I mean, what the heck? Why not?
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Why
not? They've got Blade Runner coming out soon too. Free League's just killing it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I trust them at this point. Like, if they're doing something, it's at least worth exploration online, and then maybe even a blind purchase.
Yeah, I trust them.
They're good. They're good. And finally, Bloat Games has announced that their Dark Places and Demogorgons game is going to get a re-release and a Kickstarter coming in October of 2022. But this time, the rules are going to be for old school essentials. Yes. That's like...
It seems like such a perfect fit.
It's so perfect. I love Dark Places and Demogorgons. It was a great game I got a chance to play over the summer. I got everything that they had at the convention, and ran a game for my family, planning to run a game for you in the near future. When I ran it is a very like old school OSR, almost like BX already game. So the conversion's not going to be that big a deal. I mean, at the end of the day, I really think it's like 90% there.
Sure.
So this will nudge it a little bit further, but if it's firmly in that pocket of old school essentials, that'll make it easier for people, I think, to pick it up.
Yeah, pick it up, give it more support.
Give it more support, all of that. So I'm all about it. They did, a couple years ago, they ran a Kickstarter for an attempt at a 5th edition conversion of Dark Places and Demogorgons, and it never funded completely. Which I think now the game has gotten a little bit more traction, and I think it's probably a better fit with old school essentials.
I think so.
So I'm really excited about it, and I'm hoping we can have Eric Bloat on the show sometime in the near future, so we can talk about Dark Places and Demogorgons and all the cool stuff that Bloat Games has going on. So how are you doing? Jesse and I are always asking each other how we're doing. We'd love to hear from you. Write us a note, everyeditionrpg@gmail.com, or visit us at everyeditionrpg.com. There you can find links to all of our socials, including Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can also find links to our YouTube channel, and you can find the podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We would love to hear from you. Let us know what's happening in your at your group at home, your tabletop role-playing game group. What are you playing right now? What are you experiencing? What's new at your table? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a note.
All right, it's time for a random encounter. Today's random encounter, we are talking about the Wizards Presents 1 D&D. So it's been a couple weeks since this came out. We've had some time to sort of simmer on it, think about it. The internet has sort of cooled down on it. And we have some thoughts like we normally do.
Yeah, we love to hit topics once no one's talking about them anymore. It makes more sense for us to wait till things really cool to almost a frozen solid block. And then we decide to talk about it because...
Yeah, spice it up.
Yeah, because we've had more time to reflect. We're not just knee-jerk reacting here.
Clickbait.
It's not clickbait. This is quality tabletop talk programming. So that's what we're giving you today. A really honest take and some long discussions that we've had, before the cameras were on. Yeah. So just kind of really, really thinking about it.
So a couple of things that we want to hit, just sort of as an overview. We're looking at the marketing. Mm-hmm. We're looking at the new ecosystems with the virtual tabletop coming with 1D&D.
Yep.
We're looking at backwards compatibility.
Yep.
We're looking at the playtest that's already out and to come.
Yep.
And sort of overall feelings of good, bad, and ugly kind of deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how we do things on this show, right? Mm-hmm. Well, let's start with the marketing.
Sure.
Right, that's the first thing that kind of smacks you in the face. There's a new logo.
1D&D.
1D&D, right? 1D&D to rule them all. And in the virtual tabletop, bind them. Right? Like,
sure.
That's what's going on.
That's
here.
good.
No, but it smacks you with the marketing, right? And it makes perfect sense, right? They were never going to call the next iteration of Dungeons and Dragons 5.5.
Yes.
Right.
Or 6th.
Or even 6th.
6th was kind of close, but Shadowrun has gotten to 6th. Call of Cthulhu's at like 25.
No, they're 7. They're at 7.
D&D, I think, is just over the numbering.
Yeah. Well, and
Wizards.
that's so they've decided to say, not only are we over the numbering, but we're going to make that our marketing thing, right? Like, 6th edition, whatever. This is 1D&D. This is the...
And you sort of see this with like movies and video games too. Like once it gets to kind of an absurd number, they just like forego the number. And especially with the other things that we're talking about, they're trying to coalesce everything. So it just makes sense to just drop the number and call it 1D&D.
Like Halloween H2O.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, this is...
We don't talk about that movie.
This is Wizards' version of Halloween H2O, right?
That's a bad omen.
1D&D. I mean, it's a reboot. Right?
Yeah,
it's a reboot, and they're trying to, I think, with their marketing, they're trying to have this like Bob Marley feeling of one love, right? Like, we're gonna bring everybody together, and it's gonna be great, and we're gonna hug a tree and hold hands, and like, and that's the face that they're putting on. That's the marketing. Of course. That is not
going to happen.
That's not going to happen. That's not
not
reality,
at all.
Right? It's much more like, I mean, all kidding aside, it's much more like the One Ring. Like they want a little bit more control, it seems like. And truth be told, they're a business. This is all about money, folks. So they're looking about how to squeeze dollars and cents from us, their consumers, right? And their fans and the people who love this hobby. So they're going to be looking for new ways to do that because clearly the old ways can only get you so far, and you've got to be reinventing yourself and thinking of new strategies and new ways to do it. And so that is what, it's a unifying theme. We're not replacing anything.
Yeah, it's not replacing.
Right? We're bringing things together by replacing them.
I saw a meme that was like an old sort of like grognard type talking to a 5th edition player, and the 5th edition player was like, this is just D&D 6th edition. This is dumb. I like 5th edition. And he's like, welcome to the club.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah, it's so great. It's so great. Hardcore 5e players. Yeah. Let's go. Like, yay. I can't, like, then we'll be able to talk. You'll be like, I remember 5th edition. It's like, yes. Yeah. Yep. And I remember 2nd, and it's okay. Like, we got through it, and we still just play the game we want to play.
Yeah, you play the game that you want.
It's fine. And that's the thing. 5th edition's not going anywhere, right? So everybody chill, right? Everybody chill. All right, but that does bring us to the next point of this conversation, right? Which is the new strategy here, right? Yeah. The new focus does seem to be on a virtual tabletop, right? It's a new ecosystem for the game, right? If everything up until this point, the ecosystem of the game basically has been the table, right? Well, the pandemic helped to move things into the virtual realm, and I think Wizards would be just as happy for it to stay there.
Yeah.
Right.
They realize that there's a huge market there. There's a lot of people who use it and want to be able to play basically whenever they can. And, scheduling is the biggest sort of enemy of Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
And if you don't have to worry about that, you're more than likely to use a system that uses that.
Yeah, it's hard to get everybody together in the same room. It's easier to schedule a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So it actually does take away then a pain point.
Yeah.
Right, for the hobby. Now you can debate whether or not the quality of the game is as good virtually.
That's a personal preference.
Right. Personal preference, or what you prefer. Right. But it's very clear that they have 5+ editions worth of this game with the physical tabletop as the primary ecosystem. And they experimented starting with 4th edition, even before then, right? They with having more digital tools and more, virtual tabletop type stuff.
Yeah.
I think they're going all in, right? I think that's what the next edition of D&D is going to be, very much like 5th edition. It's effectively, I think it's going to be a 5.5.
I think it's very close to a 5.5.
Effectively a 5.5. But the real change is going to be emphasizing the virtual tabletop.
And I want to sort of make something clear. If you're not particularly versed on what a virtual tabletop is, I had this come up with a couple of my groups when I was talking to them about it when it was announced. It's not replacing your tabletop game. You're still able to, and in the future, you will still be able to purchase a campaign book, a player's handbook, whatever, and you can still play around the table with your buddies. There's just also a Wizards of the Coast virtual tabletop. There already exists virtual tabletops.
Roll20.
Yeah, like Roll20. Foundry, Fantasy Grounds.
Yep.
Any of these that are, even like VR chat. These things have been used for years alongside the physical D&D stuff. This is just now a Wizards licensed one that they're spending all of their resources on.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you can't play just on the tabletop.
Right.
You can play just on one or the other or both. So it's not taking one away.
Yeah. Well, I do think the focus though is going to be the virtual tabletop will be the lead dog.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And so therefore it's going to be more like D&D as a service rather than a product.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking about. It's going to be more like I subscribe, kind of like in the same way like Nintendo tries to get you to do that with Nintendo Online, and they want you to have a subscription to not only save in the cloud but also you unlock certain retro games and stuff, right? And so that's trying to get it to be more like a service, more like a subscription, more like a cable bill. And I think that's where Wizards would love to be. That you're paying a monthly fee for
they have
for
a
Dungeons and
reliable
Dragons.
feed.
Reliable stream of money.
Yeah.
But I also think they want that video game money.
Yeah.
And I think they want that Fortnite money. I think they want that skin money. Microtransactions. Yeah.
If they put loot crates in the game, I'm never going to play Dungeons and Dragons again.
Yeah. Well, not that version, right?
No, I will likely not play D&D.
You would leave? Okay. No, I mean they're not going to do loot crates, but they are going to. You're going to, your character. You're going to want that perfect virtual tabletop mini representation, and so Purple Pants are going to cost $1,
and they're not going to let you import your character from anywhere else because you can't do that.
Right, and a dwarf with red hair. Again, it's all about the visual representation, right? That red hair is going to cost you another $1, and so by the time you're done. Customizing that virtual tabletop character through microtransactions and the effectively Fortnite skins, right? It'll cost you, somewhere around $10 worth of microtransactions, and you'll have a figure that looks close like your guy.
But that's like 6 or 7 people per table,
right?
Over several thousand tables,
right? Yeah,
it adds up real quick for them,
and that's video game money, and exactly. that's where they want to be. So subscriptions, microtransactions. It is. I do anticipate it's going to be a pivot away from the table in that. Yeah, there's still going to be books.
Yeah.
But they're going to be an afterthought.
And you're going to be kind of like, oh, you're you're the old guy who still buys books.
Right. I mean, so anecdotally, right? My son and his friends go to a D&D night at a local cafe.
Sure.
And they roll digital dice.
Yeah, they don't use regular dice.
And I don't know if this makes me a bad parent or an old person or whatever. I intervened. Like after the first session, I said, guys, listen, I love taking you to Dungeons and Dragons night at this cafe, and I'll do it every month.
Sure.
But you got to do me a solid here. You're rolling real dice.
That's the compromise.
Okay, that's That's all I ask. I'm not playing the game with them. Like it's their game.
Yep.
Right. I stay all the way on the other side of the room just because I have to be there as a chaperone.
Sure.
But I'm like, you gotta roll real dice. It's important, right?
It's a tradition.
Yeah, I guess it's more tradition. But instinctively, though, or just naturally, they went right to digital character sheets and rolling dice digitally, and had to have somebody old like me say, no, do it this way. So that is where if my son is 14, if that's where this new crop of D&D players is, well, you got to meet them where they are.
Yeah. Right? If they're online, you gotta come to them.
Yeah.
And with things that are worth ripping them away from whatever else is keeping their time.
Right. I also think too, like the idea of books as an afterthought. We'll talk about the Spelljammer set today, but there's already proof in the pudding that their Wizards' physical product is already in some ways starting to feel like an afterthought.
Yeah, like things that they don't want to print.
Right.
They'd rather just keep digital.
Yeah, and why would you want to spend the money?
Yeah.
Right? Well, if like digital release, that doesn't cost you near as much as printing and storing and transporting and selling and then getting returns and all this kind of stuff. Like a physical product for a big corporation like Wizards starts to become a hassle.
They would rather spend that on advertising.
Exactly. So the new ecosystem, virtual tabletop, I think that's where it's going. And here's a positive note. Why not?
Yeah.
We do have 5+ editions of a very table-centric game. Why not have the latest edition take advantage of the latest tools? If I don't like it, I can play 5th edition.
And you could just play on the tabletop. You don't need to worry about the virtual stuff. So there's actually a game for PlayStation and I think, PC and I think PlayStation called Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know if it's actually released, but you can still play it. It was built I think 2 years ago using 5th edition books.
Right.
Like all the developers had 5th edition books like right next to them throughout the whole thing. And when you play it, it feels like a virtual tabletop, virtual experience of Dungeons and Dragons. It's very intuitive if you come at it from a 5th edition rules standpoint. So they already have experience with this. They already have the digital stuff working towards it.
Right.
With microtransactions on D&D Beyond, which they now own, you can buy bits and pieces of books. Like in Fizzbins, you can buy the new Dragonborn types for $4.99, or you could buy the new racial features or the like the Ranger class for $4.99.
$5 chunks.
Yes, you don't have to buy the whole book, so it gets you to microtransactions. So they're already doing this. So they've got the virtual stuff for everything going forward, but how does that meet the older players and the backwards compatibility stuff?
Yeah. So why be backwards compatible, right? First of all, the reason I think that the game is going to be backwards compatible is because they're putting the virtual tabletop first, which means they're programming the virtual tabletop now, which means they need a finished game to be programmed.
Yes.
Right? So it's going to be 5.5. It's going to have some tweaks, but basically the game is going to remain pretty much unchanged because it is a good game. It is elegant. It is sleek. And I think a lot of the changes that they're going to make are actually going to be to serve the virtual tabletop first.
Yeah, probably.
Right? So they'll make some decisions based on either what's easier to program or what makes more sense to program or what have you for the virtual tabletop. That's my thought. They're programming now. They're making it now. They don't have time to play test a new version of the...
Yeah, that would take another couple of years.
Yeah, and the research and development of a completely new game, They are not interested in that. There's no money in that. There's money in video gamifying what they already have.
Or they could just keep doing 5th edition things forever.
Right.
But they're trying to get more money.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting. There's been a lot of focus on this idea, it's going to be backwards compatible because they don't want to frustrate their customers.
Yes.
Right? I don't think that's it at all. They don't. Wizards of the Coast doesn't have any trouble frustrating their customers. That's what they do all the time.
Have you heard of 3.5?
Right.
Have you heard of 4th edition?
But so they're not really worried about that. It's the bottom line is they are making the virtual tabletop now. It's where all their research and development money is going, and it's going there right now.
Yeah.
And so they have to have a game that they can program that's already created.
And it's already going to be backwards compatible. Like, if you think about a 5th edition adventure, or even back to 3rd edition adventures, like, they're all pretty simple. Right. And there's a lot of like companies and a lot of individuals that update adventures like stats wise, like monster wise, challenge rating wise for 5th edition adventures. But to be fair, you could just do it in your head because 5th edition is pretty simple. It's pretty boiled down. The campaigns that come with it are very role play heavy. They're very boiled down, easily converted. Yeah. And they're just going to continue making adventures that are the same.
Right.
As if it was still 5th edition.
Right. Well, and that makes me think too, the one thing that 5th edition has a lot of is campaign books.
Yes.
Right? And so if they're creating a virtual tabletop for effectively the same game or the game that already exists with tweaks, right? It's easy enough for them to take all the campaign books that they already have for 5th edition and reissue them as virtual tabletop versions.
Yeah.
And you will happily rebuy the same adventure that you already own.
Yeah, so I bought Out of the Abyss, 4 years ago or 5 years ago or whatever.
Right.
And I'd spend another $50 on a virtual version of it that I could run a new group through that actually has us go into the Underdark and has all these features and things.
But you'll feel good about plunking down another $50 on Out of the Abyss because it's like the special edition version.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
With the virtual tabletop, newness.
Yeah.
Right. But so they've got tons of adventures. They've got a good game. What they don't have is a virtual tabletop and the video gamification. So the real reason for backwards compatibility is they can then pull from the library, I think, of stuff they've already got, right? And just convert it to the virtual tabletop, but sell it like it's a brand new product.
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about the playtest, the Unearthed Arcana that came out to support this Wizards Presents announcement.
Yep.
And let's do it. Let's do good, the bad, and the interesting.
Sure.
I think the ugly is more interesting. I don't know. It's the virtual tabletop. Like that's the part of this that is causing people to be like, do we even want this?
Yeah, it's a new frontier.
Yeah, and the consumer will respond like, maybe we don't want it, but we don't know yet because it's not out. But if it stinks,
you'll be the first to know.
Absolutely. But so let's look at the Unearthed Arcana here. So it focuses on character origins.
Yep.
So it looks at the race of the character, the background of the character, and the language of the character. That those three components sort of make up the origin of your character and where they come from. Languages is interesting. So everybody's going to speak common.
Yep.
Everybody's going to have a language associated with their background. And then everybody's going to have a third language of your choice, right? Which could be your racial language, but doesn't have to be. Good move, right? Makes sense. If you were a halfling raised by dwarves,
you wouldn't speak halfling.
You wouldn't speak halfling,
or
right?
Whatever.
Makes perfect sense. So that's interesting, though. Everybody can speak 3 languages, so it's a very multicultural world.
Yeah, that's pretty nice.
Right? And here in the United States, where a lot of us are monolinguists, the idea of speaking 3 languages might seem bizarre. But if you go to other parts of the world, the idea of speaking 1 language seems bizarre, right? So that's okay. That's
cool.
That's cool. That just is what it is. They're putting all the pluses, all the bonuses to stats in the background,
which is nice.
rather than in the race. So that's interesting. So if you're like, if your background is a butcher, then you're spending all day butching, and so you're a little bit stronger,
Sure.
right, or something like that, right? So
more strong than like a thief,
right?
Yeah.
Or if your background is a student and then you're spending all of your days in school, then
studying.
Higher intelligence.
Sure.
Right? Okay, great. Interesting though, they are still going with the word race, right?
Yeah. So Pathfinder switched away from it.
Right.
A lot of games now are switching away from it. They're just sort of using ancestry or heritage, things like that.
Species, right?
It could just be a D&D has always used the word race, so everybody in their head thinks of like what a race is. Like if you think of the different races of D&D, I think of elves and dragonborn and humans.
Sure.
I think if there was any time to change it, if they were thinking about changing it, this would be the time to do it with the new edition. But maybe it will. This is just the Unearthed Arcana, so things could change.
Yeah. Well, and that was the big, one of the biggest responses that people had to this Unearthed Arcana was, hey, why are you still using the word race? And it does set it up to what if this is just a straw man? What if this is the obvious easy change that they're going to roll out?
Sure.
They're going to roll out when the new game comes out, and then we're all going to applaud. Be like, wow, they did it. Oh my gosh, they're brilliant.
But they plan on doing it the whole
They
time.
plan on doing it all along, right? Yeah, part of me it kind of reeks of that.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's so obvious. All these other things you're thinking about changing die rolls and stuff, but you're going with the word race. Okay, all right.
Simple oversight, maybe.
Now there is one new race.
Yes.
Though,
Yes.
in the Unearthed Arcana, the Ardlings, which are effectively like the tieflings with a celestial background,
instead of demonic.
Instead of a demonic background. Cool.
Yeah, seems cool.
I like symmetry.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Having both of them on the same party could be interesting.
Yep. And the Ardlings and the Tieflings have 3 different legacies, ways in which they got their power. That seems to be also in terms of the symmetry that they're thinking about for character creation, having 3 different things to choose from.
Yeah.
For fleshing out your character. Okay. Cool. So the good here. I think the background change is going to be an obvious good update.
Yes. Also helps with lore and character building. Seems great.
Yeah, give some teeth to that. The 5th edition character sheet had something for background, but outside of the very first session that you play where you're introducing your character, you maybe never referred to it again. So maybe this gives it a little bit more teeth because it's giving you, it's affecting your stats.
And it seems like I want all of my stats to come from what I did until I was an adventurer.
Right.
I don't want my stats to come from who birthed me. That doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. The bad here, it does seem like it's a return to feats.
Yep.
And I do have this sneaking suspicion that it's starting to feel a little bit more 4th edition-y in terms of symmetry. And it's starting to feel a little bit more 3rd edition-y in terms of feats. I don't know that either of those things are moving the game forward.
I don't particularly enjoy the feats in 5th edition. They're pretty condensed. There's a bunch of feats packed into one.
Right.
And they're pretty powerful. I know for the first couple of years of DMing, I just didn't allow people to use them.
Yeah, you just do the ability bump.
Yeah. Now I've sort of laxed that rule with a hey, if you can explain or if you have a good reason, sure. But most times they're just a little bit too powerful. And I'm afraid that if they decide to break those up again, that's just more time inside of a book when everybody's leveling up that you're trying to sort of, crunch over.
Yeah.
That's unnecessary.
All right. And then finally, the interesting here, 2 things. One, inspiration.
Yeah.
They're going to give you a concrete way to get it, right? So if you roll a natural 20, not only do you do double damage, but you also gain an inspiration point automatically. That sort of forces everybody every table to use inspiration, whereas before it really was almost completely DM discretion.
Yes.
Now it's got a mechanic. You roll a 20, you get a point of inspiration. You can only ever have 1 point of inspiration at a time, but you would automatically get one if you roll a 20.
I will not be using this rule. If it makes it into the main game, I will not use this rule. I think inspiration, like, there's already a million ways for you to get advantage on a roll, even just sort of baked into your character. If I want to use inspiration, and I've used it maybe like 10 times, it comes from a very, very good role play or combat moment.
Yep.
I want it to be something really, really, really special.
Yep.
And getting it every time you crit is kind of lame.
See, and this feels like one of those moments, like I said before, that they're making a decision based on what is better for programming than what is better for the game, right? So DM discretion, that's hard to program, right? But every time you roll a 20, your box ticks for having an inspiration. Oh, that the computer understands and you can program. So that's very clear to me. Like this is an on-off switch for a computer because we're programming a virtual tabletop. It's not a decision that's based on what's actually going to make the game better.
I agree.
So interesting, right? That to me. The other thing that's interesting, they're bringing back the idea of primal spells.
Yes.
That could be good. I'm not against that.
Split the spells a little bit more.
Split the spells a little bit more. Have the druids and the rangers and your nature based have a different than your clerics and your paladins and your godly domains.
Yeah,
right?
there's been almost like 10 years of third party spells and mechanics revolving around 5th edition spells.
Yep.
Take from some of that.
Yeah.
Use inspiration from that and delve into spells a little bit more.
Yeah, that was I think the first time primal spells was a thing was with 4th edition. At least the first time I remember seeing it. And then when they swept away the stank of 4th edition, primal spells went away, and that might have actually been one of the cooler parts of it. So yeah, let's try it. Let's try bringing it back. That sounds like it could be interesting. Let's see.
So let us know what you thought about the Wizards Presents 1 D&D reveal and the sort of trajectory that Dungeons and Dragons is going on for the foreseeable future. My main thought is the name. I despise the name. 1 D&D. I'm sorry, person who made that name. Like it went through. Everybody agreed that it was cool. It's not cool. Just call it Dungeons and Dragons. Like everybody calls it D&D. Just keep it D&D and get rid of the numbers. That is a sort of umbrella term as it is. 1 D&D. I'm not going to call it 1 D&D. No one's going to call it 1 D&D. So let us know. everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can check out our website, everyeditionrpg.com, where you can find links to all our socials. And let us know down in the comments what you thought of the 1 D&D discussion.
Jesse, I think we were actually 1 D&D before 1 D&D.
Really? Oh, yeah.
We cover every edition.
Yes.
I mean, we've been all about trying to bring everybody together.
We should try to dig up some of the old pre-podcast thought bubbles.
Maybe for the 1 year anniversary.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. It's time to loot the body. On today's Loot the Body, we are taking a look at Wizards' latest Spelljammer, Adventures in Space, the long-awaited, the anticipated 3-book, or maybe not, set from Wizards of the Coast here. So I couldn't wait for this.
We have been talking about it since day one.
Yeah. I mean, and I love Spelljammer. I have loved Spelljammer for a long time. I still can't wait. I still want to take what's good about this box set and use it in our current campaign. I really want to do some Spelljamming, and I think there is, there's stuff here to like, and there's stuff here to love, but it's not without effort.
You got to dig for it,
and it's not without overlooking some very troublesome things going on in this
That's
platform.
a word.
Yeah. So we're going to do a good, the bad, and the ugly this time around on this. So I think, though, right off the bat, if you want the short version of this review, if you're a player, save your money.
Yep.
Okay? if you're a dungeon master or you have a table group, it's probably worth the purchase of one set for your
table. Everybody could chip in, and you could get this. It'd be nice.
And like I said, if you don't mind homework, like this does require some lifting. We haven't played Light of Xerxes.
Correct.
So we don't know if it's any good. I hope it's good. I would love it if you ran.
Yes, I have plans on introducing that into our group. So I think, we can report on that in the future.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to play. I think it's when you hit 5th level.
Yeah.
So we're at the beginning of a new 5th edition campaign. So maybe in a little bit we can give it a shot.
Yeah.
All right. So the good here, Boo's Astral Menagerie.
Fantastic.
Great.
It's a monster manual. What else could you want?
Who wouldn't love monster manual? Right. And one of the things that I really like about Boo's Astral Menagerie is that it actually has at least two creatures from Dark Sun.
Yes.
So you've got the Surin, who are the Dark Sun lizard folk, and they have Defiler magic. Awesome. And actually, there's a mechanic for the Surin in Boo's Astral Menagerie for them to use a little bit of Defiler magic. So it's the first time it's making its appearance officially in 5th edition. That's cool. There's also the Braxit, which is the Dark Sun, psionic giant rhino, almost like a Star Wars Rancor type creature. So cool. I love that those guys are both in there. I also really like the DM screen.
Yes.
Right? And overall, when you buy it, you will like the packaging.
It is very great packaging. The special edition covers are great too.
Yeah, super attractive.
Overall, great packaging.
Yeah, the packaging looks great. It looks so good. It's a very good looking, very good looking product. Okay. We all know that a book is more than its cover, though.
If you put any of these books individually in your backpack on your way to a D&D session, you will love that they are lightweight.
There you go. Yeah, you will love that they're lightweight. And in fact, they're so lightweight that they are... The bad here is that the Astral Adventurer's Guide, right? The player's guide here.
Yep.
Totally lacking in lore and rules.
Yep.
For those of you paying attention to our previous episodes, both crunch and fluff. This is low on both meters. So, the thing that was glaring to me, and I've seen plenty of people talk about this, there's no rules for space combat.
Yep.
Right? For ship-to-ship combat. Okay? That's been talked about. You can find other podcasters to mention that. The thing that bugged me was magic items.
Yes.
And the serious lack of helms.
Mm-hmm.
There's supposed to be lots of different kinds of helms, and that they affect the spellcaster who's piloting the ship in different ways.
Yeah, different ways.
And there's one helm. There's one helm.
I think there were like 4 different magic items or so. There was like less than 1 page.
It's kind of sad. Like, and it loses like the whole idea that in of itself is a new kind of magic item, and a something that can change your game in a significant way. So it was really disappointed that there's only one kind of helm. The reality of the packaging here, and I called this when they first announced it, is that you actually are getting less content than you would get out of a normal book.
Yeah.
So each of these little books is 60 pages thereabouts, like 64 pages or something like that. So it's 192 total pages, okay?
Spread across 3 books.
And so that means that each of the books has a table of contents. Each of the books has
credits
and stuff like that, all that kinds of, which eats up, 2 to 4 pages, right? Just picking a random book goes to the Salt Marsh, right? 256 pages.
I had no idea it was that many pages.
So it's almost like you're missing. There should be a 4th mini book, and it's not there.
And that one has ship combat in it.
Exactly, right? No, I didn't pick that by accident, right? The idea, Astral Adventurer's Guide, right? They have a couple pages for the ships, which was always going to be my favorite part.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Book, right? Looking at the different ships and the ship maps and stuff, great. The thing is, the stats are so lacking. Like, you get hit points And basically that's it. And then a nice picture of the ship, and that's about it. There is more information in Ghosts of the Saltmarsh on, a keel boat.
Sure.
It's treated like it's given the stats like a monster in a monster manual, right? There's more information for a keel boat than there is for any of the Spelljammer ships. That's ridiculous.
Which is nuts when you think it's a spaceship that's getting you from adventure to adventure, or could have an adventure in it of itself.
So again, this connects to our discussion of 1D&D, because I think they are going to be crunch averse from here on out, at least until the virtual tabletop and 1D&D comes out. But they didn't want to fill this up with new rules because they want backwards compatibility. They want to be programming right now, and they don't want to be creating things that they're going to have to figure out how to program. Right? So you're not getting ship combat. You're not getting major stats for ships because they don't want to program it. So 1D&D is already affecting 5th edition in, frankly, a negative way.
Yeah, we know the next edition, and they're working under the assumption that everything's going to be backwards compatible. So everything until then is going to be seemingly like lighter than it would normally.
Yeah, and if you look at the slate of books coming out, they're lighter. It's a hollow. It's almost like a hollow slate. Like you can tell, like they're doing some fan favorite stuff, right? They're going to re-release Lost Minds of Phandelver in a campaign book. Awesome, but that also lends itself to the backwards compatibility idea that they can then resell you Phandelver. Now, actually, they'll sell you the campaign book, and then they'll sell you the virtual table. So you're going to sell it to you 3 times, folks. It's good.
It's good. I don't know if it's 3 times.
It's good. I don't know if 3 times good, but yeah. So the slate of the next couple books, I'm not expecting them to be super crunchy. I'm not expecting them to have a lot to actually add to the 5th edition game. Again, I think they're going to be rules adverse from here on out. To link this to video games a little bit, I don't know how much our audience would cross over with World of Warcraft, but that's a game that's been around for about a little bit more than 15 years now, and every couple of years goes through a new edition or new iteration. And at some point, there comes a point where they announce the next version of the game and they stop making content. Or if they do make content for the current game, it's very light. There's no new things involved that shake up the game like a new book or a new campaign that's huge. It's just light stuff that doesn't rock the boat because they're working towards the bigger new release. Yeah. And in truth, this started with the multiverse book.
Yeah.
Right, Monsters of the Multiverse, where they're basically repackaging what they already put out. I totally would anticipate, there's that book of many things that's in the roster. Well, that to me sounds like either a rules compendium or a magic item compendium, or they usually have ended each edition of D&D recently. They ended 3rd and 4th with a rules compendium and different sort of re-releases of the game.
And it would be nice to have like another book similar to like the monster book, where all of the magic items from all of the different campaign books and whatever are in
all of the spells.
One book, all the spells.
Yep. Oh, I'm a sucker for those.
And I would buy it again,
I would too.
Even though I have all of that stuff in various forms.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I love Monsters of the Multiverse. I think that's a great release.
Yeah, it's a good book.
But it didn't. They weren't bending over backwards to put that one together.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that was a pretty easy. Here we go. Slap it together. All right. So then the ugly is obviously the quality control and the Hadozi. Yikes.
Yeah, it was a pretty yikes moment. It's been covered sort of to death.
Yeah.
But it was a pain point that was very obvious that I sort of noticed, like flipping through the book, but I didn't really know why I thought it was a pain point until it came up online. And then I was like, yeah, I clearly see that that's an issue. And I think this leads itself well to the virtual tabletop stuff as well.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea that the Wizard issued an apology pretty quickly, and then they issued an errata right away on the digital version, and then all the physical books are still out there in the world, and Wizards is like, someday there won't be physical books, right? And we'll just be able to correct everything.
Now they have to do a whole new print run if they want to keep this, sort of in circulation. and they have to change things.
Right.
When otherwise they wouldn't.
Well, and that, I don't think they'll ever do another print run with the corrected version.
You don't think?
No.
Okay.
I bet they printed all the ones they wanted. All they want to
yeah,
sell.
I imagine so.
And they can say they fixed it, and that's moving forward.
But again, this is like as we're getting to the end of 5th edition, at least as we know it, they're pushing things out a little bit quicker. They're not focusing so much maybe on details. Things are gonna start slipping.
They're focused on the virtual tabletop. They're not focused on the physical product that they're releasing. So how the clearly sort of racist stuff with the Hadozi got out is because they're not paying attention. They're asleep at the wheel with it. They don't. I feel like there's like some contempt with the physical product right now.
Yeah.
They don't actually care.
Very tense.
Yeah, they don't actually care about the physical product. They're like a kid messing with the margins of an essay.
Yeah.
Right. They're like, oh well, can we make it? If we squeeze this, then we can pump out 3 books, and then and then we know John from every edition's gonna freak out because he loves more books, more better, right? And it's
More covers.
Yeah, more covers, more better. 3 alternate covers, good.
For the price of one. Yeah.
And we all, I guess we all fell for it, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad.
And it was just sort of like the last nail in the coffin for me. Like, come on, all of these other pain points of the books, and then the Hadozi thing. Like,
yep,
it's unfortunate.
Yep. So there we are, folks. I'm hoping Light of Xerxes is fun and good, and Boo's Astral Menagerie is great. The Astral Adventurer's Guide, terrible.
This is sort of another thing. Like if you point people to D&D Beyond, you can say, okay, buy one of these books, or like if you want the monsters, just buy the monster book.
Right.
So they don't even need to sell you the whole thing. They can just make the whole thing and then sell you it piecemealed.
So you think they're intentionally making it so that you only want part of what they're selling, so that when they start to sell you only parts of things, you're happy about it?
I mean, I definitely think that's been a thing with D&D Beyond for quite a bit. So people who use it are kind of conditioned for that. I think my biggest thing, we didn't mention this in 1D&D, but my biggest thing was I was hoping for an announcement of every time you buy a physical book, you'll get an online redemption for an online version of it. Still holding out hope for that, but I think it's sort of dead hope now.
We'll see. Well, yeah, I'm still hopeful. I'm still hopeful about that. But I think we've got a year of nostalgia bait before we get to the new game and the focus on the virtual tabletop. So maybe 5e in terms of new official Wizards stuff is already all but dead.
Yeah,
just creeping to the end. So sorry about that, everybody.
End of an era. I mean, it had to end at some point.
Yeah.
5th edition's great. I understand people don't like it and would rather something new or go play old stuff, but that's okay. We can all play the same game.
Still great third-party content, and there always will be, right? I mean, that's unless they shut down the open gaming license. They wouldn't do that, would they?
Wizard of the Coast. Lawsuits happening. We'll see.
Probably another episode.
Yeah. So there you have it. A good, bad, and ugly episode. Shots were fired. Things are happening in Dungeons and Dragons. Things are happening all over our industry. And we're right here.
Yeah.
Every edition. I'm actually really excited to see what the virtual tabletop stuff looks like. At least, there's going to be some sort of beta test that we're going to be able to try. I'm just hoping for the best because I love this game. I love this hobby. I only want the best for it. It should be okay. But if more things come out like Spelljammer, I'll be a little less optimistic. But it is what it is. Let us know what you thought about everything, including Spelljammer, down in the comments below. Or you can send us a line over at everyeditionrpg@gmail.com. You can find all of our socials at everyedition.com, including links to our YouTube here, links to Spotify and Apple Podcasts, our Patreon, Facebook, Twitter, keeping the discussions there. We've got some hot drama going on over there. Let us know. Let us know what you're thinking. And we're actually coming up on 1 year.
Yeah, 1 year anniversary.
Every edition.
Very excited. We'll have to do something special for the 1 year anniversary.
Yeah, so keep an eye on our socials over at everyedition.com.
Thanks for watching.